to Scrappin with Sheri and project recipe 15. Now this recipe requires less of anything than any of the other recipes that we've seen. There are only 2 sheets that are involved here besides your backgrounds. And you know me, these are mats and I'm not going to cut the mats. But we've got 1 sheet to cut. And then we use a border maker cartridge or a punch. And this uses one that stays attached. So I'm going to do that in staying true to the recipe. So what I've chosen is this dotted paper, and you can't really see the dots very well, but this is from the Candlelit paper pack that was part of an incentive collection. It had birthday candles and a punch and several sheets of paper with that. So I'm going to be using that dotted. The back side of that is red if you're looking for this. And then I'm going to be using these 2 as my backgrounds, and these are from the Totally Tonal Soft Pinks. So I'm going to lay those aside until I'm ready for them. And we're just going to cut this 1 sheet of dotted. And we'll be using our 12-inch trimmer for this. And it tells us that this is an 11.5 by 11.5. So we're going to take 1/2 inch off here. That's your first line to the right of your cutting mat. And then I'm just going to rotate that and cut off another 1/2 inch. And that'll give me the size that we need. And then if you read the directions on the opposite page, it's going to tell you to fold this in half diagonally, corner to corner. And then you're just going to make this into 4 triangles. Now, I think the easiest way to do that, and when I read the directions, it says fold it from corner to corner and cut along the diagonal, which leads me to think this way. But to me, the easiest way to cut first is to line this up on your guide right here, on the little lip of your trimmer, and just cut this on the cutting line. And then go back and do the same thing with these 2 pieces. Because if you try to cut along that long diagonal, it's not going to fit in your trimmer. You're going to have to use scissors on the ends of it. And I never get a straight cut that way. So this seemed to be the easier approach to me. And I am turning this red upside down because I think it's easier for you to see that in the video. But it's the other side that I'll be using. All right, we've got all the cuts made with the 12-inch trimmer. And the next thing that it tells us to do is to go back and punch the long sides using a border maker cartridge. They use the Tire Tracks border maker cartridge. What I'm going to be using is the Dancing Stars that came from the secret box earlier in 2025. I just thought it would work well with what I've got going on. And I was having a hard time finding one that I really loved that would work with the theme of my pictures, because most of the ones that I really liked for this layout were cartridges that come off. They were chain cartridges instead of attached ones. So that made it a little more difficult for me. Now I've lined up my straight edge in the housing, and now I'm just going to punch through this. Now something pretty big to consider when you're picking out your papers is you're going to need to see the paper through those little holes. So you need to pick something with a little bit of contrast. And I'm not sure at this point if mine are going to have enough contrast. As an aside, I'm lining this up sort of in the center of this, end to end. I'm not sure if mine will have enough contrast, but if it doesn't, we'll cross that bridge in just a minute. All right, so we've got all the punching done. That means all the tools are out of the way now. We're finished with tools. And that was pretty quick. All right, now let's lay out our 2 papers. Now remember, my backgrounds are from the Totally Tonal Soft Pink. And I feel like the top is going to be plenty of contrast, but let's see how the bottom works. Well, it's not stark, but I think it's okay, because we're going to add a little something to the bottom anyway. All right, these are pretty. What a simple page so far. Let's see how simple it is when we start taping it down. And I'm going to go ahead and tape these pieces just so they're not going to move around as we lay out our pictures. And again, I'm trying to center this side to side. If you're working on your 13-inch mat, that's going to be much easier to do. I tend to eyeball a lot, so. And if you'll notice, I didn't pull out my repositionable tape. I'm just hitting a couple of spots right here on the top edges, and I think that'll hold it down well enough because I do page protector pretty quickly. And again, just kind of lining up side to side. And if you're going to lay your pictures out as they did, you're probably going to need to make sure that those two center points are very close to even. My pictures are going to be laid out a little bit differently because of the orientation of them. So I'm not quite as concerned about that middle point lineup, but you may want to check into that depending on how your pictures go. I think y'all are probably noticing more and more. I'm definitely not a perfectionist. I do like pretty pages. I do like reasonably uncluttered pages most of the time. I tend to like deeper colors rather than the really bright colors. I love my pictures. And I enjoy getting pages completed. All right, so those two are laid out. And if you'll notice, they've used two horizontal pictures here and at the bottom over here, and then two verticals. And my orientation is not the same. This was a birthday party for my great niece, and we did not get to be there for it. But my niece sent me some pictures. So I wanted to do them just to add to our family album. And I felt like these were going to be great side to side. Now, they're not all exactly the same size. This one is a little bit smaller. And let me see about these. I think these are all the same size. This one, I'm probably going to put on this. No, I think it'll be okay right there. I think it'll be fine. And I can add, my niece did some journaling when she posted these on Facebook. So I felt like that would be a great journaling tool to use. Now, I'm just going to lay these out straight across the middle, which ends up making lots of triangles on my page. There again, I'm fine with that. It doesn't look like the layout, but I like the way it looks. And having no horizontals, it kind of locks me into what I can do here. And I could go up and down and here. I could do something more like this. But there's still another design that goes across the bottom, and I do want to add that. I'm also, in my mind, seeing embellishments already. So I think once I add some embellishment, it's going to be just fine. And you'll notice, because I developed mine myself, I've got the white edges. And I'm overlapping those white edges a little bit just so I don't create lots of big white space. That's going to give me a little page break right here. And I'm good with that as well. And then to line these up correctly, I'm just going to start on this side with this picture and make sure I line it up on the same area as I did the one on the opposite side. And that keeps my pages reasonably straight, so that when they're in my album, they're going to go straight across that page rather than showing some differences. And here again, that's going to leave me a little pink edge. And I could go either way with that. I could have the pink edges be on the outside, or I can have the pink edges be on the inside. I think I'm probably going to keep them on the inside, just because I really wanted this picture to be the first one you see. We've got our journaling, but when I look back at the sketch, one thing that they did was they put a strip here and here, and I liked that. One thing that I found that I really liked with this was this from one of the birthday collections, and it brings out all the little colors in her decorations there. So I felt like that would be a really good thing to use. And I'll show you how I'm going to line it up. here again, you do you. But I'm going to take it sort of close to the border we've already cut. And I'm fortunate in this, I've got these little dots, and they are helping me to line this up a little more straight on that piece. And then I'm going to do the one across from it in the same space. And actually, I'm lining up on the same blue dot too, so that's very helpful. Okay, so when I turn this back upside down, that has just helped me bring in a little extra color. I'm going to add my niece's journaling here, but I think I'm going to put a map behind that to make it stand out a little bit more. Now, if you were paying good attention, you notice there's a change on this page. And the reasoning is I started pulling out a color to do, to map my journaling. And I realized there just wasn't enough contrast between the border sticker that I had used and that background. So I decided to remedy that really quickly. And I just cut a little strip of this purple I had left over. It's kind of a mottled purple. It's from an old collection. I can't even remember what it was called or anything about it, but I know it is Creative Memories. And I went ahead and matted those two sticker strips on that just to help them stand out a little bit. Now, that also is going to help with the embellishment that you see that I pulled. And I don't know why I didn't think about that in advance, that was going to be way too light. But we're going to add that right there. And then a couple of embellishments I pulled. I pulled this one that says a little cake, a lot of fun. And the lettering is in purple with that. So I felt like adding that purple really makes a difference there. And I like it. And I found this little sticker that says birthday girl. Now I'm just going to pull some foam squares for these. There's a little sticky on these, but they are old and they were actually up against something else, so there's not a ton of sticky on them. I'm not going to use my anti-stick tool this time. Normally I would, but I think birthday girl would fit really well right up here. And I don't really have any pictures of her with her cake, but this side of the page needs a little something. So I feel like right there might be a good place, or even right down here, although I have some embellishment here. So I'm kind of leaning towards going to the top with that. And on this one, I'll pull a couple of the big the big foam squares. I really want it down there, but I just think we're heavy on the decoration down there. Maybe over here even, with her and her mom. All right. So we have got project recipe number 15 completed. We did do the papers just like they did. The only thing we added was a map behind our sticker strip right there. And then they had embellishments here. They had embellishments over here, but their pictures are different from ours. And a little bit of journaling, which I may or may not add. I'm not sure. But there's the project recipe number 15 completed. And until I see you next time, happy scrapping.